Carol Cole was born November 5, 1963. She and her sister Linda Phelps lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan, primarily under the care of their grandmother after their father and mother divorced. Later in life, Carol decided to leave Kalamazoo to accompany her mother Sue to San Antonio, Texas in 1979 at age 15. However, she remained in contact with her sister by telephone. After experiencing problems with substance abuse, Carol was living at a girls' home run by the Palmer Drug Abuse Program in Austin, Texas from May to October of 1980. While living there, she continued to call and mail letters to her family, but these eventually ceased in late December 1980. Where Carol was staying after leaving the program wasn't exactly clear, but at one point her grandmother was able to trace her whereabouts to a home in Shreveport, Louisiana. Her grandmother called the residence and was informed that Carol had departed to attend a party, but she had never returned. Carol's sister Linda and her friend also continued to search for her, but were unsuccessful. Some sources state that Carol may have spent time at a religious institution known as the New Bethany School for Girls, which was located in Arcadia, Louisiana. Her sister noted that an image taken around the time of Carol's disappearance at the school depicted a group of girls sitting in pews, one of whom bore a strong resemblance to her sister. Whether or not the girl in the picture was really Carol hasn't been verified. Later, on January 28, 1981, a teenage victim's body between 15 and 21 years old was found concealed by trees in Bellevue, Bossier Parish, Louisiana. She wore jeans, a white long-sleeve shirt with pink, yellow, and blue stripes, a beige sweater with a hood, shoes with the names Michael Briscoe, David, Risha, and D. Davies written on them, white socks with blue and yellow streaks, white boxer briefs, a white bra, and a leather belt. None of the names on the clothing amounted to meaningful leads. The victim also had her fingernails painted prior to her murder. The shoes were later determined to have been size 7. A knife found in the soil near her remains is thought to have been the murder weapon, as the victim had been stabbed 9 times. Most of the evidence recovered from the scene was destroyed due to a fire in 2005 at the facility in which they were stored. The victim was believed to have been white, with possible Native American ancestry, and was murdered by sharp force trauma, approximately 4 to 7 weeks before her body was located. The remains were in an unrecognizable state of decomposition. She was at a height of around 5 feet 5 to 5 feet 6 inches tall, and weighed between 125 and 140 pounds, placing her at an average build. The victim's hair color was determined to have been blonde, straight, and shoulder length, and her eye color was unknown due to the state of her body. The girl had orthodontics at one time when alive, and may have had them removed from her teeth by herself or someone not affiliated with an orthodontic company. It was later confirmed that Carol had broken the braces from her teeth by herself before her disappearance. Investigators had difficulties with establishing the identity of the victim, as there were no means of identification present at the scene and there were no known witnesses. Serial killer Henry Lee Lucas confessed to her murder, which was not unusual, as he had stated that he was responsible for the deaths of many other unidentified victims since the time of his capture. However, Lucas was not considered to be credible, as he was known to be in Florida when Carol was killed, and he has since been eliminated as a suspect for the murders of others that he also made false confessions about. Because of the decomposition of the body, the victim was reconstructed, at first with a 3-dimensional clay model, and later with a digital method by the Louisiana State University FACES Lab. Once possible, DNA was eventually extracted from the victim's teeth that would be used to compare against missing persons. Carol's sister, Jeannie Phelps, filed a missing persons report for Carol. She suspected foul play after she was unable to locate her, and the report was also entered in the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, abbreviated as NamUs. She and Carol's childhood friend had also used Facebook and Craigslist to garner awareness and information for the case. The grandmother who was determined to find Carol had since died, but Phelps maintained a strong interest in finding her sister. Meanwhile, on February 6, 2015, the local sheriff department in Bossier Parish, Louisiana, started a Facebook page. It was an effort to identify the young woman found murdered in his jurisdiction. Within days after the creation of the profile, over 500 individuals had friended the account. The number increased to well over 1,000 after less than a week. On February 6th, a 911 operator named Linda Erickson saw the sheriff's Facebook page with Carol's reconstructed image. She later notified detectives when she came across a Craigslist ad with a photo of Carol, thinking it could be a match. It was a Craigslist ad that Patty Thorington, a friend of Carol's sister, had placed in an effort to find any information on the missing girl's whereabouts. By February 13th, someone at the sheriff's office emailed her regarding their case. DNA tests were then conducted after officers turned to Carol's family, using the victim's profile against those of her parents. After tests were completed, it was announced that Carol and the victim found in Bossier Parish, Louisiana, were indeed the same person. After this announcement, a GoFundMe account was created for the expense of a new burial and headstone for the victim, as the family was struggling to pay for the transport of Carol's body and for a headstone. Carol was later buried at the Maple Grove Cemetery in Comstock Township, Michigan, on June 18, 2015, after a funeral service. Since Carol's identification, the investigation is now aimed at locating the person responsible for her murder. The man who had discovered Carol's body is John Chesson. He was out hunting that day with his children when he discovered Carol's remains. His daughter Frances told officers that she suspects her father is responsible for Carol's death. Frances believes that her father, John, had decided to go hunting for the first time with his children to establish his innocence by finding the victim's body and reporting it to the police. She went into further detail, describing her father as abusive, and that she believes that a young woman he had brought into their home was Carol, whom he had picked up as a hitchhiker. Police confirmed that Chesson is considered a person of interest in the case, especially because of his conviction for the murder of his mother-in-law, but he has yet to be considered the prime suspect in Carol's case. Chesson is currently incarcerated for life for his mother-in-law's death, which occurred in 1997. Unless there is a confession or new evidence comes to light, the case of Carol's murder remains unsolved.